Hello and good afternoon. Today I am joined by Toby Ryan, who is Head of Partnerships at a very exciting company called Scan.com, which some of you may well be aware of. And I'm looking forward to hearing more from Toby about the company, his background. So, Toby, thank you for joining.
Yeah, pleasure. Lovely to be here.
No problem. What is the, so do you do a lot of wet sports? I can see that outfit behind you there.
Yeah, I do a bit of triathlon for my sins. That's my go-to hobby at the moment. Just got back from Germany a couple of weeks ago for Ironman Roth or Challenge Roth, long distance triathlon.
Oh, very good. How was it?
Well, the race itself was fantastic. I definitely think it's the best triathlon in the world. My performance, on the other hand, was rather mediocre.
It sounds pretty impressive. To even complete one of those things is quite intense. So,
Yeah.
whereabouts are you? Where are you based then at the moment?
I live just outside of Bath. Mostly work remotely, but we've got an office in Brixton.
Right, very good. Very good. So yes, yours is an interesting story. So I know you're involved with the commercial aspect of Scan.com now. But in terms of your background, where are you from originally, and how did your journey into this area start?
Yeah, sure. Well, I grew up Devon and Cornwall, went away to university at UWIC in Cardiff and did a sports science or a combination biomedical sports science degree. I immediately did a physiotherapy degree afterwards, having finished sports science, didn't really know what I wanted to do. And one of my tutors said, "Oh, I think you'd enjoy physiotherapy." Without even hesitating, I thought, "Yep, that sounds cool." Maybe work in football or rugby. As many young male physios often think, when they're 18, 19 and start their training. So yeah, went off to Oxford Brookes and did physio. Really enjoyed the course, but I must admit, even while studying, I was thinking, oh, I'm not sure if this is for me for 30, 40 years. I was lucky enough to get a job, maybe like 1 or 2 weeks after completing my degree. And I got 2 jobs. One was in a running clinic down in Ormston. And had a real mixture of patients, but let's say 50-60% of them were runners, and then just every day, some athletes, some non-athletes, MSK clinic, and then with Plymouth Albion, who at the time were Championship Rugby Club, and short commute into them, but that was great fun. I suppose immediately I was thinking, well, I'm absolutely living my dream here, doing a mixture of running and rugby. This is fantastic. But I had pangs to do other stuff as well. I ended up going on a ski season and kind of starting a physio in a van business. I just had my table and I went round to chalets and hotels, saw 1 or 2 patients a day. It was all kind of triage, really. You can ski, you can't ski, you need to go to hospital, and a bit of massage in between. Did that for a season, really enjoyable. But while I was there, I actually met a guy who worked in industry. He was working for I think it was actually a radiology company at the time. And he was an ex-physio, and he said, have you ever considered anything outside of physio? I thought, well, yeah, I have considered it, but I really don't know what's out there. So he taught me through kind of the med tech industry, gave me a few pointers. And when I got back from my season, I interviewed for a few big companies. I think maybe Smith & Nephew, Olympus, Carl Storz, and Stryker. Stryker, the interview process just blew me away immediately. I was really impressed with the people, the process, the stories there. And I think it was a really intense interview process, maybe lasted 6 to 8 weeks, and included their quite famous Gallup psychometric test, which was quite fun. And when I got offered that job, I jumped in with both feet and started as a sales associate, which is like the lowest run of the ladder there. And I was covering the whole of the Southwest. I think for the first year and a half, I was just driving here, there, and everywhere, doing all the odd jobs, but supporting all the the established sales reps and meeting the surgeons, going to the meetings, educational meetings, CPD stuff, being involved in all of that. And it was really great fun. And then they gave me my own territory, which was in the kind of Oxford region. And Oxford is very well associated with orthopedics. So I was looking after some big names in hip and knee replacement, and being involved in lots of educational meetings. So it was really, really great fun. I did that for about 7 years, and it was a really good grounding in kind of commercial aspects of the medtech industry. And then I actually, while I was there, I got quite involved in kind of patient pathways and kind of education of patients, which was, I suppose it was quite new for the medtech companies at the time, but they were, there's a lot of evidence out there, the more you educate your patient, through their pathway, the better the outcome. And that's all the kind of the medtech companies want, is the best outcome for their products in their centers that they support. So that started to gain my interest. And I suppose at the time, digital health and digital pathways was becoming increasingly popular. So I started kind of shuffling around into that world and having a look, and seeing what I could do, what I could find, and mostly kind of just did kind of advisory for free, introductions to surgeons or to other junior medics that I knew in the industry who were kind of keen. Did that for about 3 years. Didn't make any money really. It was just good networking. And then I think 4 years ago, no, it was just during the pandemic. So it was like, what, 3 years ago now? Seems like yesterday. I joined iPLATO, who have now been acquired by Puma, and they have an app called My GP, and it was used to access NHS GP practices. I think they had around 4 million people on the app back then. They've probably got many more now, and they were looking to commercialize that app a little bit more. So we started building out a kind of self-pay marketplace that included things like physiotherapy, at-home blood tests, some dermatology products, and I got introduced, through that, I got introduced to Charlie, who is one of the co-founders at Scan.com. We were having a conversation for 3 or 4 months, and he said, "Oh, you know what? I think this Scan.com thing's actually going to go somewhere. We're going to build the team out." So I hopped across and joined Charlie as soon as I got some seed funding, and that's led me to Scan.com.
Very good. No, it's an interesting background. I've got a few questions on some of that stuff then. So you've gone on to do physio. You're already showing signs of entrepreneurship by doing the ski season and doing the physio over there. But what was it that you were looking for that physio didn't provide that you thought you could get from the sort of business development and commercial sector?
Yeah, I suppose it's a good question, but for me, it's the two things. The idea of being in the clinic every day and doing very, very similar process every day kind of scared me a little bit. I like the idea of just getting out there into the world. I know there are options in physio, especially in sports physio and maybe in the military as well, or kind of international sports in particular. I suppose the other side of it was, as you mentioned, the entrepreneurial side, the opportunity to maybe grow something larger or be part of something larger than the clinic itself, and the idea of making money. What else was there? I suppose it is just like developing further relationships and just finding out what other people were doing, and not just wanting to be a clinician. Not that I've got anything against just being a clinician. I still have the pangs every now and again to go back to it. And as you know, once you've been a physio, people are always asking you questions that I rarely know the answers to.
Yeah, no, it's really interesting to me because I followed a similar path in terms of sports science and then moving into business development and so on. So one of my things is I think I would have really benefited from working for a big company like Stryker. So I am interested in what was the process for you? I think I interviewed or was looking at GSK at one point on the pharmaceutical side. But what was it about that Stryker did that you were particularly impressed with?
Well, Stryker's reputation for its interview process and selection policy kind of preceded any other knowledge I had about Stryker. It was just known for being pretty harsh and pretty brutal. I suppose having a bit of an athlete background and enjoying a challenge, that immediately appealed. But it always comes down to people, doesn't it? Who you meet, and it was the people that were interviewing me that I was just really impressed by. Lots of them did have academic, sports science, and physiotherapy or clinical backgrounds to them. But the interview process was extremely vigorous. I think there was maybe 3 face-to-face interviews. Then they with different teams. I think when they first interviewed me, immediately they were thinking, potentially sales, and then they were questioning, well, maybe marketing instead. At the time, they didn't take too many kind of junior salespeople without previous sales experience, and I definitely didn't have any training or sales training before Stryker. Then you have this kind of almost world famous Gallup interview process, and it's around 45 minutes to an hour on the phone, where they ask you direct questions. Are you entrepreneurial? If you say yes, they say, well, give me an example of a time when you were entrepreneurial. And it's quite cutting. You get no emotion back from the interviewer. You don't know where you stand. It's not like a normal interview or discussion where you can gain some rapport and you can read someone's body language or tone, etc. And then after that, I think there was some role play, standard role play interviews, and then you start to meet the managers, etc.
Right. Yeah. No, I find it fascinating that. So we use Gallup. We use the Clifton Strengths Test in our organisation, but I'm not familiar with the interview process. So is that part of the same? I presume that's the same group.
Yes, it is, and they do call it the Strengths Finder. So after they've done this specific interview, they rank you across 34 different strengths, and then to fit into the organisation, you have to be high performing across certain strengths. And it's not like they rank them 1 to 34. And it might be that you're very, 1 means very, very strong, and 34 means, probably your weakest. Doesn't mean you don't have it at all. But I think, they want things like competitive, futuristic, planner, that kind of stuff. But I think what's very rare for me was harmony. It's actually my number 1 strength, which is very rare for a salesperson in Stryker. Maybe why it hasn't been full 30 years at Stryker, but I can't remember my other. I think harmony, competition, futuristic. They were my top ones.
So there, yeah, you've got a combination of ones there, because I remember them. So I know Katie, my colleague, got harmony, and she was like, "Oh, does that just mean I'm like just dead nice to everyone?" And it's just like that. And so, well, she's very good, so yeah, that's a good one to have. I know mine. Well, yeah, it's a good one, but it's like because I really love all that stuff, because when we were recruiting for salespeople, when they had competitive, whatever it was, strategic, those things, it's like, oh, brilliant, yeah, great, do that. But I think it's really accurate. The scores that come through, it really resonates with when we've looked at what you would think it would be. Like our ops manager was like organization, all like the purple ones, I think it is, which is all of that detail, all of that stuff, all the stuff that I detest. It was like, yeah, that is actually really good. And then some of the ones which I thought I would be higher on, I wasn't, but I was all like sort of green and orange, like relationship and strategy, which I guess is sort of good for or communication and strategy, which I guess is quite good for running a company. So did you agree with the ones that you got? What were your thoughts when you got the scores?
Yeah, I did generally agree with them. And what everyone does when they get their ranking, they just look to the bottom to see what they're the worst at. I think mine was like creativity, which kind of goes hand in hand. I've never been particularly like artistic or anything like that. And harmony, I think they describe harmony as the ability to make sure everyone's on the same page, which is incredibly important for negotiation or resolving conflict, etc., which is very, very important for salespeople.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, interesting. And then, so when you were jumping forward again back to when you met Charlie, then, so how did he sell you on the vision, the mission for what Scan.com were looking to do?
Yeah, good question. I think it starts with it's just a really, really organic kind of growth and start to the company, Scan.com. It was a osteopath and an NHS radiologist, started out as a pen and pad operation, just looking to put private patients into free spots in MRI machines. Charlie, you've met Charlie. He's a very charismatic guy. Could probably sell ice to Eskimos, to be honest. He's so engaging, very, very impressive young lad. He had been at KPMG. He's an accountant by trade, and he'd worked across a couple of kind of market aggregators. So he'd been at Deliveroo when they were first launching in the UK, and he'd worked at an entertainment offering called Pollen. And he was a family friend of Jasper, the osteopath, and thought, there's real potential, to have a marketplace play here, and aggregate all of the diagnostic imaging sites in the UK and make a direct consumer offering. So when I first explain Scan.com to people, I always say we're Booking.com, but for diagnostic imaging. And we really have two core offerings, and that's the patient-facing website, the ability for anyone to go onto our website, book in the modality that they want at the center they want. And then the second part is the bit that I am focused on. It's the B2B offering, where any entity can refer their patients to us, and we will basically have a managed service for that patient and take them through the booking, the scan, the report process, and then give them back to whoever referred them to us. And that can be an insurance company, a medical legal company, or a referring clinician.
Yeah, no, it's really interesting, and you can see you're getting good traction across the UK. So when did the company actually start doing this?
I think the company was founded around 5 years ago, and then it was 18 months ago, exactly when I joined, that they received their seed funding. And when there was about 6 of them working on it part-time, and then as soon as they got the seed funding, I think 3 of us joined, a head of marketing, sales or partnerships for myself, and a head of product, and a founder's associate as well. So that took the team to around 9 or 10. And then over the last 18 months, we've grown to, I think we're up to 45 now. And that includes some team in the US where we've launched in Atlanta, Georgia.
Right. So what is the dynamic of the team set up now?
Complicated question. There's a lot to it. So I think there's around 10 of them in the US, and then the rest of us are focused in the UK. And there's probably a core team of 4 or 5 that work across both geographies, and that would include Charlie, CEO, Ollie, COO, and then some marketing and product engineering functions. And I think the way they've made it work is we've launched in the UK first, tried to have good process and product that we can then transfer across to the US. Obviously, they're going to have slight geographical differences and some changes need to be made, but it seems to be working pretty well at the moment.
Yeah, no, I think it's a really exciting company from what I've seen, and from our side, that we're very involved in the diagnostic imaging space with the systems that we work with. And I think we can see there's a big growth in the demand for objectivity, for imaging and access and speed of access, certainly in the private sector. So do you have an idea of where the company wants to go, is moving towards, and how big you think it can be?
How big's that's a tough question. I think yeah, we're growing across kind of every aspect at the moment. So I think that the core proposition for us is we're adding on the B2C side, the direct to consumer or direct to patient side, we're adding this kind of transparency around what is available to the patient. Where can they get an MRI? How long is it going to take? What's the cost? Etc. So we're kind of putting the choice back into the patient's hand on what they do. I always say MRI because it's our main modality, but we obviously do X-ray, ultrasound, and CT too. We've also got a pregnancy network, and we're starting to add more and more modalities. We're going to do some oncology pathways, mammo and prostate, very, very popular, and becoming more popular in the self-pay area. There's a potential to add pathology into that, and maybe have some mixed packages between pathology and diagnostics, again in mammo and prostate. There'll be two key areas to explore that. We also do a full body scan option, which is kind of nine part MRI. Takes an hour and a half. I actually had one done myself, and it kind of gives you an overview, and can pick up anything nasty. We don't do that many of these. Probably maybe a handful a week, and we don't put a huge amount of time into marketing that, but that is an option at the moment as well. In terms of growth, I suppose it's adding more and more modalities, and then more and more options or supply sites to our network. We are well over 150 sites up and down the UK at the moment, and we're in constant communication with all of the large groups, as well as smaller kind of 1, 2 to 5 networks.
It's really good. So just finishing off on scan.com. So what is it for people that are looking to engage with this service from a B2B perspective? So businesses, like what's the best thing for them to do?
Yeah, well, we've got several options on the website. You can directly refer. We've got a kind of web referral form on the website, and we've also got a sign up to create your own portal on the website. But if anyone wants to discuss it further, then feel free to reach out to me. I think there's a Calendarly link for me on our website.
Right, that sounds good. So then, just getting back to you then. So for people that are, say, physios or wanting to be sports therapists or whatever, they're in that industry, what are your thoughts and recommendations for potentially not staying in that area and moving into the more of the commercial sector?
I suppose just find a friend or a friend of a friend who's in that world, and grill them on what they actually do. The grass can always be greener, so it's well worth exploring what their day-to-day is. There's a huge variety in roles, from the sales associate that I started as, which could be running instruments up and down the country in the back of the car, or getting an implant from one hospital to another, to the marketing, organizing CPD events, and that kind of thing, all the way up to QARA and quality assessment and things like that. So I'd say find a friend. I suppose all physios will probably know someone that works in industry. I think out of the 6 lads in my class, I think only 2 of them are still physios. That I know of. Another lad in J&J. I think one lad's gone on to be a medic. So reach back out to your classmates, I'd say.
Yeah, no, it's interesting because it's such a vocational course. is that you kind of sometimes assume, like being a teacher, isn't it, that you're going to go into that as it's a profession that you can go into. But it is interesting. Like we've got two like sports therapists, graduate sports therapists on our team, and it is a different world, but it's quite interesting having the combination of different skills. So yeah, no, it's great. It's exciting business for you to be involved in, and it's I personally find it very interesting. Like you were talking about some of the funding rounds that the company's going through. It's always exciting to see a good company doing well.
Yeah, so we obviously got the seed funding 18 months ago now, but we announced our Series A funding a couple of months ago now. We raised just over 12 million, I believe. So that really goes towards building out a better product as well as launching in America. So yeah, it's really exciting times for Scan.com. Watch this space.
Brilliant. No, well, thank you very much for sharing it. And again, it's great. Thanks again for the ticket to Isokinetic. I appreciate that one. It's good to be working with you guys. So I'll put the information in about the company because if you've not heard of them, if you've not seen it, it's really worth checking them out. It's definitely a company that's going places, and certainly with the NHS needs as much support as it can get at the moment. And I think this is a great service to be able to do that. So Toby, good luck. When's your next Ironman?
Oh, the last one's too raw. I haven't booked anything in yet. Haven't even got back to training yet, but maybe another one this year. We'll see.
Very good. No, I really appreciate your time, and I look forward to seeing you soon.
Cheers.
Thank you.